Hey, what's up guys? It's Owen here. This is going to be the second video in my two-part series on Megaminx formula class layer. Today we will be covering PLL. Just like last video, the top alg is the one I use, and the smaller one in parentheses is an alternate alg. Okay, first we're going to cover edge permutation. For this case, you pretty much want to just keep doing U moves until you see that you have two edges that are both lined up to their centers. So in this case, it's orange and pink. Then so you look at this one on the right and see if it needs to go here or here. If it needs to go here, this is the algorithm you do. It's easy, just 7 moves. I finger trick it by doing a slight regrip. Okay, if it needs to go to this one, you do this algorithm. Pretty easy to finger trick, slight regrip to the bottom. If you see that the two edges that are lined up to their centers are adjacent to each other, you have to look in which direction these three are going. I just check this one and see if it needs to go to here, or if it needs to go to here. If it needs to go to here, you do this algorithm. Pretty simple to finger trick. Start in home grip. If these two are adjacent and this one needs to go back here, you just do the same as a J perm on 3x3. I start kind of pinching this piece. If you do U moves and none of the edges line up with their centers, you have to do this alg, which is pretty awkward and you might want a table abuse for it. I finger trick it by starting with a regrip on my right hand. It's pretty awkward. Alright, moving on to CP, we'll start with the A perms. This one's pretty easy to recognize. Looks just like the A perm on 3x3. The alg I use, you start with a little rotation and do. I finger trick it by doing this D prime with my thumb. It's pretty awkward to do with your thumb, and you might want to use one of the alternate algs I have for this case. This case looks just like the other A perm on 3x3. Finger trick it basically the same way, doing the D moves with my thumb. Again, you might want to use one of the alternates I have, as this one's kind of weird. Okay, for this one, I see that these two corners are solved, so I just look at this one and see if it needs to go here or here. If it needs to go here, I do this algorithm. Finger trick that by doing. Main thing to note is that I do the F prime with my pointer like this. If the corner needs to go to the right, it's the inverse of the alg. I'll start with a regrip that makes my thumb on top. Okay, now moving on to the E perms. This one looks just like an E perm on 3x3, except this corner is solved. The algorithm you use works on 3x3, but you've probably never used it because it's not the standard the algos. I'll finger trick it by using my left pointer finger a lot. This corner is solved, but instead of this corner needing to go here, it needs to go here. It's kind of like an E-perm if you're holding it from this angle. You can see the resemblance. This alg also works on 3x3, but you probably don't use it. I'll finger trick this by doing a slight regrip to the bottom. Then you gotta do the rotation. This one doesn't really look like the E-perm on 3x3. I recognize it by seeing that one corner is solved and there's headlights. The alg, you do L prime, triple anti-sin, RU prime, R prime, L. I'll finger trick that by doing a slight regrip to the bottom of my left hand, and while I'm doing the L, I'll kind of make the same regrip on my right hand. You might want a table of views for this one as well. Okay, now we're going to be looking at the H-perms, which don't look anything like H-perms on a 3x3, except that all the corners are solved. The way I recognize this is I see that this corner needs to go to the left. The alg is just doing an alg I showed you earlier twice. It was one of the EP algs. U. Pretty simple to finger trick. I'll start with a slight grip shift. This one's fun to execute. This one, I see that this corner needs to go back here. The alg for this is F, anti-sun, F prime, R prime. Then you go back here and do a back sun, then a BR. I'll finger trick this by doing a slight regrip to the bottom. Do that F prime with my pointer finger, R prime, then a quick rotation. Start from home grip for this anti-sun. Use my pointer finger for that. For this one, I'll see that this corner doesn't go here or here, it goes here. I'll mainly look at the edges. I see this edge needs to go here next to those corners. And for this alg, you do back anti-sun, but you do all R2s. And then sun, but all R2s. Finger trick this by doing a slight regrip. IDO U2 prime. Another IDO U2 prime. For this one, same thing as last time, except this one doesn't go here, and this one does go here. This one, you do an anti-sun, but with all R2s. I'll do like an IDO U2, which is kind of weird. You rotate here, and do a back sun with all R2s. Alright, moving on to the K-perms. There are two types of K-perms. The first two will have headlights. The next two will not. Okay, so for this one, I see that I have headlights, and this corner needs to go here. So I do this algorithm, which is an EP cancelled into a T-perm. Finger trick that by regripping like this. Slight grip shift there. For this one, headlights here, headlights there. This corner needs to go here. Finger trick that by doing a slight grip shift. Everything from there is fairly straightforward. Also, it's a regrip, not a grip shift. Okay, time for the worst PLLs. No headlights, no bars, These are extremely hard to recognize and could sometimes take me 10 seconds when I first learned them. Basically what you want to do is look around the cube. You don't want to actually be rotating until you see a corner that needs to go to an adjacent spot. So if I'm looking around, I'll see that this one needs to go here. Now I need to check here and see if any of these needs to be swapped with each other. No. I'll see here. This one needs to go here. This case, I'll do. Alg is pretty simple. It's kind of like a triple back anti-soon with all R2s. It's also pretty self-explanatory on how to finger trick it. To recognize, you'll start the same way as last time. You have to find a corner that needs to go to an adjacent spot. If these two were swapped, none of them would have been solved. If these two were swapped, one of them would be solved. This one will be solved here. These two, this one will be solved here. Since this needs to go to the left, you do this algorithm. I remember it, how pretty much it's a triple anti-soon with all R2s and you start with an R2 prime. Finger tricks. Pretty self-explanatory. Alright, that's all the algorithms you need for PLL. If this was helpful to you, make sure to like and subscribe. See you next time.